Hayley Seeger was sick of wearing swimsuits that just didn't feel right. One day she was packing to go on a trip and she decided that enough was enough. And what followed in the 3 years since was a long journey. And today we're going to dive into that. From maxing out credit cards to taking on over $15,000 in loans to the highs today of, having sold tens of thousands of units of swimwear and creating the One With brand of swimsuits that fit just like underwear. We're going to dive into it all, so let's get right into it.
Thank you for having me, Jordan.
Perfect. Well, look, I know you've built a pretty incredible brand with One With. Can we just go back to the start and just talk through kind of what inspired you to create the brand? And just for reference, this is, a swimwear business that, creates apparel that fits like no-show underwear.
Yes. So the idea hit me in April of 2019. But even before that, I actually got the idea for One With, I had always hated swimwear and never knew exactly why. And I could never put it into words. I love fashion. I loved everything about clothes. Never really had gripes about fits. I had a decent relationship with my body, but I couldn't put it into words or solve the problem for why swimwear didn't feel as good as even underwear did. So literally one day, kind of all came to a head, and I was trying on a bunch of different swimsuits in April of 2019. And I was literally packing for a trip, trying on all these swimsuits, and out of frustration, I said out loud, I just want a swimsuit that fits like my favorite no-show underwear does. I literally froze in that moment. It hit me. That was the issue. If I could solve that problem, it would solve the issue for me and, women everywhere. So naturally, I looked up online to see if this existed. It didn't. And that's when I knew that I had to be the one to create it.
Okay. And at this point, what was your background? What were you kind of doing day to day?
So I was an OG YouTuber. I started a YouTube channel in 2008. I always say, don't go looking for it. I took it down. But that was my background. I did it for a long time. So yeah, I started a YouTube channel in 2008. I eventually went full time with it. I'm talking like a decade later. It was a slow burn. All the while, I was working in the bridal industry, going to school. So I had this kind of background of fashion and social media. So well primed for this venture, if you will, but I did not have super direct or super in-depth e-com fashion experience. That was a new thing for me. But yeah, my background was sort of fashion and social media combined.
Okay. And when you say fashion, was this kind of creating product or what kind of fashion are we talking about?
I sold bridal gowns. I eventually did work for a bridal designer. So I saw that, kind of glimpse of that side of the industry, but it was mostly me working with brides on a very much ground level selling wedding gowns.
Okay. So can you talk me through kind of the next steps in the process? You've got an idea. Yeah. How does that come to reality in terms of, product?
Yeah, so it's funny because going back to my childhood, I always knew that I'd have a brand. I always knew that I'd come up with an idea for a product. And I don't believe in think tanking anything. I just trusted that it would hit me. And that's just how I kind of go about life. I just know that I'll get the idea. And I knew that when I thought of an idea that would be the idea, I would know. So that's how I felt when I thought of One With. So once that idea actually hit me and I knew that that was the thing that I was meant to create and do, again, like you said, how do I bring that to life? I waited for basically a year. I don't want to say waited, but I kind of trusted the process for a year that I was going to figure out how to bring this to life in the best way that serviced the brand and me, right? And so, that eventually happened. I got a business advisor through the Small Business Development Center, which here in the States, every single state has one, and it's usually affiliated with a university. And my business advisor, Small Business Development Center, was affiliated with UConn, which is where I went to school. So I started seeing a business advisor through there. It's no cost to the advisees, if you will. It's funded with taxpayer dollars, which is really cool. So I started seeing this business advisor. She encouraged me to sign up, or I guess apply for this startup accelerator that was specific to alumni and students of my university. Now, my university is very STEM centric. It's very mathy, pharma, science. And I was like, oh my gosh, she wants me to go and apply to this thing, this startup accelerator where it's going to be, you know, all amazing biotech companies and stuff like that. And I'm going to go in there and hawk my swimsuits, you know, and this is just gonna be hilarious. So I did it more to appease her. My business advisor, I kind of got a call back to go in person and pitch. And to my surprise, I got accepted, which was huge because it was 8 weeks of intensive startup support. And then in addition to that, $15,000 of non-dilutive funding. So at this point, the acceptance to that accelerator program came almost a year after I had thought of the One With idea. So, and I had it in my head at that point that I needed to hire a technical designer to help me bring it to life. I debated on going back to school, learning how to make patterns, like really doing this from the ground up. But then I realized I cannot fake years and years of experience in doing those things. And it's going to cost me more money in the long run to fix the mistakes I'm inevitably going to make. So I figured it was best to just use that money to hire a technical designer that could help me bring this to life and also help me work with factories and things like that.
Okay. And I know when we spoke previously, you said this kind of accelerator program was super useful because it kind of plugged the gaps in a lot of the kind of, I guess, business and ops side of things. Can you just talk through kind of what you picked up on that program?
Yeah, it was really basic business stuff. And I don't mean basic in a bad way. I'm saying basic in the way that I needed to learn it. I needed to learn ground level workings of a business. Picking apart a P&L, you know, business model canvas, doing a SWOT analysis, like all the kind of like cliche business school things we did in 8 weeks, and it was super, super helpful. So that was wonderful. And it was less like, there was nothing about e-commerce. Like it wasn't like, you know, here's how to obsess on your CVR and your ROAS. You know, it wasn't like that. That I learned later. But this was just like really ground level building a business. And it's exactly what I needed at that time. And even more so than the actual curriculum, it was having people around me that believed in me. Because I wasn't talking about this idea. I wasn't blabbering about this to anyone who would listen. This was very much me doing this in stealth mode. So having people around me that were at a similar stage or mentors who really supported me, that came at a really good time for the trajectory of the business and propelling me and my idea, you know, to the next level.
Okay. What happens next? So you've got, you know, this grant, you're looking for a technical designer. You've got this kind of, you know, foundational business kind of background now. Mm-hmm. What happens next?
So I hired the technical designer, you know, with that $15,000 in non-dilutive funding. I kind of had a few different ways for how I wanted to bring the concept of swimsuits that fit like underwear to life. I had a few different ways that I thought, to my untrained eye, if you will, that we could do this, right? So I brought all those to her. We kind of decided on one, started making tech packs, sending those tech packs to factories, getting samples back, and ultimately finding, you know, the factory that would produce our first run, which is not a factory we use any longer, but it was our first factory and obviously important to the story. So that's kind of how things progressed from there and how we ultimately got an actual physical product in hand.
Okay. And was this, where were you manufacturing? What factories were you looking at?
In China.
Okay. And so were you putting in kind of the big, you know, minimum order quantities, or were you getting kind of samples? Like what was that kind of process like?
Yeah, I mean, we got so many samples, like dozens and dozens of samples. And samples for something like this, you typically don't get charged for. Like maybe we paid $50 or something at some point, but a lot of factories are happy to make something like this. There are some factories that were just so off base and didn't understand what we were trying to do at all. Some factories were like half baked and like kind of did it, and then other factories got it. So and then obviously once you find one, that's when you place your actual bulk production order. And every factory has different MOQs. So, you know, our first factory, thank goodness, had obviously like reasonable MOQs. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. But it's still obviously a little scary to place an order for that many pieces when you don't have like a totally proven business yet, you know?
Yeah. So that was going to be my next question. So at this point, you've kind of spent a bunch of money, you know, obviously you believe in this. You've gone and you spent time as well and energy.
Yeah.
Did you have proof of concept? Did you have people telling you kind of, you know, they were ready to buy? Had you tried to pre-sell some, for example? Where were you at in that kind of process?
Proof of concept was my gut. and I don't recommend that to the average person. I recommend it to myself because I'm good on gut. That I think is my superpower. Like if I can brag about one thing, it's my gut instinct, right? My next product, like maybe I'll actually do a sort of like pre-sale or, user testing or something. But yeah, no, proof of concept or, product market fit was going off gut, going off of, how I felt this product would fit into the ecosystem, if you will, of swimwear. But yeah, no, I was just seeing TikTok, seeing forums online of other people being like, why aren't there swimsuits that fit like underwear? So if you're talking about like seeing evidence for why this product needed to be created, it did exist outside of my own gut feelings. But in terms of any testing, pre-sale, anything like that, I did not do that. We just kind of cold launched, if you will.
Okay. And then talk me through that process then. So you've now got product, you spent all this time and energy on it. How do you launch and what happens next?
Yeah, so we kept getting delayed, and granted we were manufacturing during COVID, but that wasn't really why we were getting delayed. We were getting delayed because we were so small and like we just weren't a priority to these factories, or this factory, I should say. So finally the product lands like late August. It was too late in summer to like time it as a summer launch. So I launched in, it was November 18th of 2021 that we eventually launched. So kind of as like a resort launch almost. Expect right away for it to, hit the ground running. Like I expected my first orders to be friends and family, and that's what it was. So, and I was fine with that. I knew I had to launch the product. I had to get the website up and do the launch and everything, but the hard work was going to come after that when I actually tried to market my product to a wider audience with $0. At this point, I had spent all of my personal savings to launch this brand, maxed out all my credit cards. Like I was completely broke, and really just having so much faith in OneWith and my ability to market this with, again, a $0 ad budget. So that was sort of how we, like I said, cold launched, and what my strategy was, which was just getting it out there so that I could make content to market.
Okay. I want to come onto the content in a bit because I think, that's a huge reason why you guys are successful. Mm-hmm. Can we talk a little bit about kind of this gut feel and this kind of energy and this flow state that you seem to follow when you make decisions? Yeah. And then also I think there's something to be said, like I certainly hear this a lot now of, people back to the wall, they have to make it work, and that's when it works. Mm-hmm. Can you just talk a little bit about kind of the situation you were in and why you kept kind of pushing forward when I guess a lot of people probably wouldn't have?
Yeah, it was a total unwavering belief in this idea. And it was from the second I thought of it, it almost felt like I was the vessel to bring this to life. It felt so much bigger than me. And I felt an indebtedness to the idea and the solution that it was for women to keep going. And it was just unwavering passion and just unwavering conviction that this is exactly what I was meant to be doing. I am the perfect person to be doing this. OneWith is my baby. OneWith is my thing. And yeah, it was just, I trust myself a lot, and I trust myself to make the best decision for me and for OneWith and the people that it affects. I trust that implicitly. And so I think, in addition to that gut feeling, it was also a sense of enough trust in myself to max out on my credit cards, use every drop of money that was in my bank account, to have the trust that one day I would build that back up, pay those cards down, make OneWith into something, again, much bigger than myself. And I did, and that's what kept me going. But yeah, I mean, all signs point to no at certain points, you know what I mean? Like any logical person would be like, I should stop. But I mean, I do think being an entrepreneur requires a healthy dose of delusion and, again, unwavering belief in yourself. And that I was definitely equipped with both of those things at certain points, sometimes more than others, obviously, good days and bad days. But yeah, that's really what kept me going.
Can you talk a little bit about some of those bad days? Because I mean, yeah, like you said, from the outside, maxing out credit cards and kind of taking on this risk is tough, right? And I'm sure you had people who were saying, go back to your day job, or kind of throw the towel in.
Yeah.
Why did you keep pushing through? Like, aside from this kind of belief?
I would say the hardest point to push through with all that was actually, so after we went viral for the first time, which was in February of 2022, so about 3 months after we launched, I was making like 6 TikToks a day, just anything. Oh my God, it was crazy. Anything to get my business out there, right? And eventually it hit, like you throw enough spaghetti at the wall, something will stick. And it did. And we went viral. It was crazy. I could say a lot about that. But, in terms of like pushing through and kind of like going against naysayers, what ended up happening was we sold out of most of our bestsellers and key hero products before summer. So we went into summer, let's say for all intents and purposes, out of stock, okay? And then I had to get a loan to pay for inventory. I actually had put enough down to pay for the deposit, but I had this stuff sitting in China, basically ready to ship, and no money to pay for the balance of it. And people might be like, well, you went viral. Like, how did you have no money? Okay, go viral and get back to me. Like, I'm not saying that overnight your overhead goes up immensely, okay? Your Klaviyo plan gets bumped, your PostScript plan gets bumped, you have to bring people on to help customer service for this volume, like returns are going up, like all of your costs incrementally go up, and then we're looking at inventory, buying more inventory, you know what I mean? So anyone who's gone viral with a product-based business before knows exactly what I'm talking about, but so it was a lot, and it was a lot really early on. So anyways, I had to pay for this inventory that was sitting in China, basically ready to go, and I had no money to do that. I was a bad candidate for a loan, bad candidate for even more credit cards. I got denied, Jordan, probably, like, I don't even want to quote the amount of times. It was dozens, let's say, dozens of times. Personal loans denied, credit cards denied, business loans denied. And everyone had a million reasons for why I was just like the worst possible person to lend to, least of all the fact that I had a 0 credit score because I had just, tanked all of my savings. My credit cards are maxed out. It wasn't 0, but it was really low. So anyways, could not get a loan for the life of me. Literally spent 6 months fighting, 6 to 9 months really, tooth to nail, putting myself in really bad situations because I think especially male investors sensed my desperation and preyed upon that. It was just a really dark time, honestly. For me personally, I had every reason to stop. But I knew that if I could just get this inventory, restock, my business would be great, for lack of a better term. So it was like, I finally got approved for a behavior-based loan because Lord knows I couldn't get one on my credit or business, history or anything like that. I got approved and funds were wired on December 28th of 2022. Okay, so that's how long I had been basically out of stock. Inventory ships, restock the website early January 2023. We go viral almost instantly again, sell out of everything almost instantly again. And it was a great moment because obviously all the people who were being sharky and weird and all that time, trying to get a loan and stuff, it was okay, yeah, all the reasons you gave me as to why I'm not the person to be running this or shouldn't be buying this much of it, whatever, null and void. So that was a huge moment for me personally as a founder in terms of my belief in myself and what I was building. And then also as a huge pop for the business and the trajectory of it moving forward. So that was really great. So January 2023 went viral again and popped off in a way that we've really basically been keeping up that growth pace since that moment. That was almost 2 years ago now.
Can we talk about kind of content and this virality? So yeah, let's take it back to the start. So you're kind of posting on TikTok 6 times a day. What does that look like? Is it just you? Are you posting, personal kind of founder content? What type of stuff are you doing? And how do you kind of get that initial traction?
Yeah, no personal founder content. I'm still really careful with where I use my likeness, if you will, in the brand. I want the brand to stand on its own. It's never been about me. It's not about me. It's about this product and what it does for women. And that was really the angling of my content. Granted, when I first started and when I first launched, I still was not 100% solid on how I was positioning this product. I knew the reason that I made this product was to make swimsuits that fit like underwear. However, I was like, is that good enough? Do I need to call it something more sparkly and you know what I mean? What was the angle? And I tried swim that doesn't dig in, which I still kind of use sometimes, but swim that doesn't dig in, swim like no other, second skin swim, all of these variations on a theme, when realistically what I learned was what people wanted was swimsuits that fit like underwear. And that's our angle. I should have just kept with that. I would have saved myself so many content ideas and, batching of content that made no ultimate sense to the brand. But yeah, so that's ultimately what kind of took off. Actually, our very, very first piece of viral content, what went viral the first time after we launched, was us talking inside of our suits. We have an inner grip strip that helps keep the suit secure without tight seams or elastic that traditionally dig in. Okay, so we've got this inner grip strip inside, and it was talking about that. That's what went viral the first time. The second time, it was specifically about swimsuits that fit like underwear. And all of the content that ends up popping off is really simple, or it's responding to a comment. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. It's really just about finding things that connect with the people who are looking to solve the problem that your product solves, right? Like that is it. So that's what works for us.
Okay. And is that still kind of the same thought process today when you're coming up with content?
Absolutely. Like we got a comment not long ago. I made a response video about it where someone's like, I've scrolled through your entire page and I can't find any content of this swimsuit on a human body. First of all, that's false. But we do have a lot of content of our swim on a countertop. Like just the swimsuit bottom laying flat on my kitchen countertop or on my couch or something like that. And the reason that is because that's what's worked for us historically. Like very few videos have really popped off the way the original ones did where the swim was on a body. I think there's something really beautiful about the swim just being as it is and people being able to put themselves in it as opposed to seeing me or a model or whoever it is in the swim. I think it takes another person out of it and puts the viewer into that content and into that swim, right? That keeps things simple for me too when I'm making content, But yeah, that's really what's worked. Really lo-fi, simple, cutting to the core of the issue, customer response type content. Okay.
So one thing that kind of stood out to me was authenticity. And, we work with a lot of brands in the kind of fashion space. They're paying, high 5, low 6 digits for kind of big photo shoots. They're hiring these models. This is not the approach you guys took. And do you think that's why it kind of connected with people more?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I've brought this up before, but I had someone DM our account and say, hey, I'm a photographer. Love the concept of your brand, but with my style of photography, we can really take this next level. And I looked at her page and it was like very beautiful editorial shots. And all I could think of was like, oh, you don't get it. Like that was my first, that's what came into my brain when I read her message. Like, you don't get it. Like I am going for here a really attainable, approachable vibe. I don't want Sports Illustrated. I love that look. Like I am a consumer of that vibe. I love that, but that's not my brand. That's not what I'm building here. And yeah, do we do photo shoots, with models and so, yeah, absolutely. But that's not the overtone of what I'm building. There's a time and a place for that. And I'm not naysaying that. Like I said, like a lot of the brands that I love, that's their vibe, but it's not one with vibe. So just sticking to that kind of ethos is, I think, what has brought us to this point.
I want to talk now about kind of, the virality. So obviously you've kind of had this initial shock, I guess, and had to kind of backfill, get inventory and kind of deal with all the problems that come up. Mm-hmm. Then you've kind of spiked and gone off again. Going forward, what do you do to kind of make sure that it's, I guess, more consistent and less of these kind of, big spikes?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I did take a break from TikTok after like both of those viral moments, which helped, kind of even things out. I guess if we were VC backed or something like that, of course, investors would be like, you need to do more of exactly what you were doing, right? Growth at all costs, like that whole situation. But I'm a solo founder. I'm clearly bootstrapped, as you can tell by my trouble in getting a loan. And I knew that that was not sustainable for me or my business. So I actually have taken we've been in business for 3 years now. I've taken a collective year off of TikTok in that time because it's a lot. It's a lot, So yeah, I would say, and at that point we obviously had such a backlog. We sold out. We had such a backlog that we actually were sustaining, the growth of the business through these drops, restock drops. Okay. You didn't get your swim in the first one. There's going to be another one, in a few weeks. So that was really exciting. That was a really fun period. Was when we were getting to, again, do these drops and like seeing the numbers on the website, like so many people waiting, to get into the website at drop time, like that was really, really cool. So we did it in a really sustained way by means of doing drops, which is actually something I've thought about doing more of, like actually that leaning into that model again, getting less inventory up front to kind of do more sustained paced drops. Obviously, as a seasonal brand, it can be a little tough. You want to capture the in season as much as you possibly can. But yeah, so it was a combo of doing paced out drops and then also being off of TikTok and kind of like letting us fill that backlog.
Okay. And just to kind of dig into that a bit more. So when you say kind of off of TikTok, I'm assuming this is, you're not creating more content. Are you running ads? Are you trying other ways to kind of get traffic, or are you just focused on, the restock drops?
Yeah, I've had a really low budget on TikTok since like spring of 2022. Like we've basically always had again, I'm talking like very low, like minimums on TikTok running. I did not start Meta ads until June of 2023. I started running Google ads like right after that big viral pop in January of 2023. But yeah, I've only been on Meta ads for a year and a half now. And it was a slow drip before that with other kind of paid acquisition channels.
How do you find those other channels? Because obviously, TikTok's been, a huge growth driver for you. Would you say the other two or any other channels have been as significant in the business?
Meta. I mean, Meta is king, like we're definitely so Meta heavy now. We do have a really solid organic acquisition rate, if you will, from our organic content. But Google, again, I started with a really low budget on TikTok, like after one of our first viral pops. I started with, a smaller budget on Google after that second big viral pop because I really wanted to like own our keyword. That was really important to me and I knew I could do that with not a lot of money. So that's how I decided on Google. And then Meta came once I had more money in the bank, obviously, just because it's expensive. And I wanted to do it right. So yeah, that came later on.
Okay. And did you have to kind of change anything about products, maybe bundling stuff or doing anything with the offer on those other channels, or was it kind of business as usual, the same stuff that worked for TikTok also worked on Meta and Google?
Precisely, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then TikTok Shop, very big kind of trend at the minute. Mm-hmm. Have you guys kind of leveraged that? And if not, kind of why not?
Yeah, we were really early on TikTok Shop, I would say. I think the products that do best on it are more unsized, lower price point, but we do have solid volume from it. Yeah, that's really all I can say on TikTok Shop. It's good, but it's not like great for us.
And then kind of on the back end then, so obviously you've kind of built a list. I'm assuming you're doing these drops, email, SMS kind of style, retargeting ads and stuff as well. What have you done aside from that in terms of retention and lifetime value?
Yeah, I mean, our owned channels like email and SMS, especially, honestly, even in the last 6 months have been amazing for us. We also really incentivize being an email, SMS, repeat purchaser, if you will. Like, for example, this week that we're recording this, we're doing a warehouse sale. The only way you can get into the website for the warehouse sale is if you get the password via email or SMS. So, and then as you can imagine, because of that, our repeat customer rate for things like that are really high. We did a Black Friday flash sale, 40% off site-wide, 12 hours only. You only got in if you got the password via email or SMS. So really tapping into things like that. And I see other brands doing that, but I can't recommend that enough. That works so well. I feel like I could see it more and I don't. It's scary to put your website behind a password for a day, but I promise you it's worth it.
I feel like on the retention side, a lot of people are quite kind of lazy and they just want to send, hey, it's Friday, here's 20% off. And that's kind of the extent of their strategy. Yeah,
I think it creates so much creativity can come with like the limitations of a brand like mine that is seasonal, that is a specialty purchase. Yeah, so we get creative and it's fun. We figure out these little things that work. So
yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that. So obviously, seasonal business, I'm sure there's a massive spike in kind of spring, summertime. What do you guys do to try and smooth that out and get, as much revenue as possible in the quieter months?
It's tough. I will not lie. You cannot force demand. Like, you can't force it. And the first year that we hit seasonality, like at scale, when like my expenses were enough to like feel the weight of the seasonality, I freaked out and I talked to every other seasonal founder that I could. And everyone said the same thing. Do not spend money trying to change the tide here. It's not worth it. It's not gonna work. You have to wait it out and you have to be really smart. And now the only other caveat to that is, and we're getting into this, is obviously like tapping into places that are in season when we are out of season. Like for us, obviously here in the States, that's Australia. You know, our out of season is their very much swimwear in season. So we are looking obviously at like an international expansion there. You can't. That's when we discount. I will not discount really in the in season, like other than like a 10% sign up offer. We just don't do it. But yeah, off season is discounting, and again, creative discounting, not like, you know, sending out, like you said, that Friday mailer every other Friday that says 20% off, right? It's the 40% off flash sale. We figured out mystery bundles work really well for us. This warehouse sale that we run every year since I basically started has done really well. So yeah, just having kind of like these activations that are themed and have a point to them. But yeah, the seasonality, I always say my next business, unsized and unseasonal, because it really is a challenge. It's one I embrace, but boy, some days is it hard.
Okay. Can I just dig into what you said there? So in terms of, yeah, kind of not just discounting for discounting's sake, is that discounting with kind of the intention of a second order effect? So it might be, you know, a warehouse sale to clear inventory of certain SKUs. It might be, you know, a bundle, mystery bundle to get AOV up. Is that the kind of thing that you're doing with these discounts?
Not really. It's really about, to your point, like evening out off-season revenue. Like, okay. Yeah, it's not about any secondary KPI metrics. Like, this is literally top line stuff.
Yep. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And you also said kind of, you know, don't try and fight the seasonality essentially. Does that mean in these quieter months you're also looking at cost and cutting back as much as you can there?
Yeah, like it's like what I do the most, I would say. Yeah, I called it the Great App Cut Down. I did that in like August. Everyone got an email from me and was like, no more. I said like, no more. And also everything has gotten, and not to be this guy, everything has gotten so expensive. It really has. And that is what it is, right? However, it's my job as a founder to look at the actual ROI on these platforms that promise the moon and stars, you know?
No, I hear you.
And I don't necessarily always get the moon and stars or even a star, you know, or even a piece of the moon. So I really had to look on such a micro level at what everything was doing in my business. And I honestly talked to other founders and they're like, they do their version of the Great App Cut Down and Tech Stack Cut Down every like 3 months, you know? And I'm like, I need to get to that level. For me, it tends to happen like once or twice a year, but obviously with a heavy magnifying glass on it in the off season. But yeah, you've got to get expenses down.
No, I think one of the best tips I got was to put everything on like a virtual credit card, and every 3 months just like freeze that credit card, cancel it and start a new one, and then just add the subscriptions to that again. Because for us, like SaaS is, you know, a big cost.
Yeah.
And it just stacks up so quickly, right?
I wish I had like that. So you're saying you put it on a credit card that intentionally expires so that you know to look at it again, or what's the point of that?
Correct. Yeah. So we'll just start a virtual credit card, a new one, put all the subscriptions on that and use that. And then every 3 months, we just kind of cut that card.
Okay.
Start a new one. And then obviously when you get the emails of, you know, you are now being cancelled, you only kind of apply the new credit card to the ones that you actually use and get benefit from.
Okay, that's really smart. I have a friend, and I won't say who, then they're not in e-commerce, but there's like those websites that give you a credit card, like a fake credit card to put in for trials. I thought that's what you meant, and I was gonna be like, Jordan, I don't have that dog in me to do that. That's really, like, I wish I did. I wish I had a little more of that in me. But no, I see what you're doing. It's like more strategic as a mental cue to you guys, right? To like really look at what's going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. That's cool.
I wish I was that advanced, but yeah, maybe in 2025 I'll add that because that is pretty smart as well.
Yeah, no, sometimes I'm like, oh, dang, but again, I'm like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can have like the gusto, but I like it conceptually, but I also hate it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's so smart, but it's so dumb.
I mean, you shouldn't have to, kind of do this, but I just feel like in today's world, it's so easy for that cost base to just get inflated, right?
Correct.
And I think this is a good way to go.
Yes.
Okay, I want to talk now on, kind of talk international expansion. Yeah, you mentioned there kind of looking at Australia. what else are you guys kind of doing? Because I believe at the minute you're US only, right?
We are technically US only. I mean, we do ship to other countries, but it's not at competitive rates at all. I really want to get more competitive in other places. We're really, really early in this as a initiative for us. So there's actually not a ton I can say other than like we're in talks and things like that. But yeah, really looking at Europe, Canada, because even though, I live 6 hours from the Canadian border, not even, shipping to and from Canada is so insanely expensive. And it boggles my mind. But yeah, figuring out how we can make, neighborly shipping to Canada, like palatable for our Canadian customers. Cause I feel bad, and it's like, it's not us that sets these rates. Like it's not, I think they think it's us. And I'm like, I swear we would not be charging you $150 to ship there. That is carrier cost and that is Canadian customs. So yeah, really looking at how we can be more palatable in these countries shipping wise and getting feet in the door in a way that is advantageous to those customers there. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with that. Again, I really wish I had that more concrete, but that's where we stand right now.
In terms of challenges for that expansion, is it mainly kind of shipping and logistics and all that stuff, or is there any other kind of issues
Shipping
that you're
and
running into?
logistics. Yeah. And I think with us too, like as a sized product, making sure we're sending enough, when we get to that point of when we're, stocking 3PLs and stuff over there, like sending enough of that product, sending enough of this product, like it's heavy logistics, as you can imagine.
For sure. And then to get around seasonality, is there anything else you consider, like maybe, I don't know, different kind of product categories that are more, winter friendly?
I won't do it. However, I just got off a call with someone with a product that is much less intimate than swim, but they are a seasonal brand and it is a wearable. And she launched like a winterized version of her product that she said is great to get people on the website, even though they might buy her actual hero SKU. They'll come to the website for this winterized version of it. But this founder was singing really high praise of, Australia as a means of getting around seasonality here in the States. So, or in North America, I should say. Yep. So that is obviously really interesting to me.
I want to touch on something that I think is a recurring theme. So I think it started with this kind of business group that you joined, but you said, being around a peer group was super helpful. And it sounds like you've talked to a lot of founders through this journey.
Yeah.
Is that true? And kind of how have you found just kind of learning from a peer group and meeting different people and getting their input?
It's so helpful. But what I can't stress enough is it has to be the right peer group. There's a lot of e-com clubs out there and things like that. And I wanted to be around other founders. I love this, one of the podcasts I listen to the most is Limited Supply, which is, like a e-com pod, obviously. I love hearing perspectives from all different people. But in terms of if I'm going to be paying money to be in a group, I want to be in a group with other founders. I specifically want to be in a group with other e-com, product-based business founders. I joined a founders group once that was mostly SaaS and I made it 2 sessions and I was like, this is not for me. It was not a knock against them. What they had built was amazing, but I'm like, I have nothing in common with these people. Yeah, we can shoot the crap about being a business owner, but in terms of our challenges day to day, they could not be more different. Yeah, so I can't stress enough, I would really vet, if people are listening to this and they're like, oh, I don't belong to a founders club or I don't, whatever. Really make sure it's a good fit for you and what you want to get out of it, because there are a lot of them out there. I just happened to find a really good one. And it's literally called The Founders Club. They're great. And it's been invaluable for me. I literally it's a 90-minute call every other Tuesday at this juncture, which is crazy. 90 minutes is hard for a lot of the founders on there. As you can imagine, that's a big block in your calendar, but it tends to be a really beneficial block in the calendar. I get on sometimes and I'll air a question, and by the end of that call, the whole problem will be solved. I'll have made moves on it, and it's null and void. Literally just from talking to 3 to 4 other people, right? That's been really big for me. I'm glad I didn't talk to too many people too early on, because I think it can sway you in ways that maybe you shouldn't be swayed. But definitely as you progress and, things get a little more challenging and more complex, having that peer group is so helpful.
It sounds like you may have learned from experience of like joining some bad groups or some that weren't as good as the one you're currently in.
Yeah, and it's good for me. Let me preface, like, it's nothing to knock those groups. It's just for what I was looking for.
Okay. And just for founders that maybe are kind of doing okay, they're not scaled up to your level, what would you say is kind of the things they should be vetting for apart from, obviously e-com product focused groups?
Yeah.
What other factors?
I would say look at your values. For me, it is really important to talk to other solo female bootstrapped founders. Hard find, really hard find. So I don't know a lot of them, to be honest with you. Most people I know have a co-founder. So I knew I wanted to be in a group where that existed, even if it was a really small, tiny chunk of it, but it existed nonetheless. I wanted to be around other founders, like no one will ever care about your business as much as you, ever. Not your mom. No one. No one will care about it as much. No one. Seriously. It's kind of like a wedding. Like, no one cares about your wedding as much as you care about your wedding. That's a hard truth for people, but I don't expect anyone to care as much, but I want to be around people who care as much about their specific brand and their product as I care about mine, right? That was super important to me. And a mix of people who were more advanced than me. I didn't want to go in there and have my brand be the smallest nor the biggest. Like, I wanted to be around people with a mix of experience and staging. And have there be a clear format of going in and round tabling and just getting to air your questions and get answers and being able to help other people. Like, I wanted to feel like I could also be of service. And this particular group that I'm in also has like in-person events, which I've gone to before and made really good connects. So just in terms of us being able to help each other, and it's really, really wonderful.
Okay. Something else that I've heard a lot of people say is kind of pick one group or pick one mentor and kind of stick with that. What's your view on that versus kind of joining a bunch of different groups, going to, all the events and all that kind of stuff?
I would not definitely. The multiple mentors, I think, has a place. Multiple groups, I feel, does not have a place. Also, just in your calendar, like if you're able to field 3 different founders groups in a week, I'd wager your business is not doing amazing. Like, that time should be used for other things, so again, a lot of the founders that are in my group have a hard time even making it to that call because we're so busy and we've got pressing things going on and whatever with our respective businesses. But I would say like multiple groups, that's like, there's something, that's like a mental buffer. I feel like if you're spending your time, 3 to 5 hours a week, like in groups versus like, on your business. So I would say pick one. I'd say multiple mentors has a place, but they have to all be mentors that really align with you. I feel like going on 3 different calls with mentors and getting 3 completely different answers is helpful. But again, they have to be answers that like speak to the core of your values and your ethos with your brand. So I think multiple mentors is fine, but being in multiple groups and airing, the same problem to multiple groups where there are different people that will be answering your question regardless. Like, I don't know, it just feels like overkill to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I want to touch on team now. So obviously you mentioned you're a kind of solo founder. What does your team look like kind of now versus kind of getting started? And where are you at in terms of the marketing side? Is it agency? Is it in-house? And what are your kind of views on that as a kind of decision?
Yeah, I'm still the only full-time employee. I have all contractors. I think there's 7 contractors at this point, and then 2 agencies. So Meta agency and Google agency. Everyone else is a contractor. And I don't plan on changing that really anytime soon. It's a really lean way to work, and I really quite enjoy it.
Can I ask about the ads agencies, why you kind of, have outsourced some of the marketing and kept some of it in-house? And specifically, why is it the kind of pay pieces that you've gone externally with?
Yeah. One thing I love about contractors and agencies in general versus having actual in-house payroll employees, I can go to any of my contractors at any point in the day and be like, hey, Meta's being weird, Klaviyo's being weird, Postgres, insert whatever here. Is that happening with your other clients too? And they'll be like, yep, weird day, whatever. Or they'll be like, no, something's wrong. This is just your brand. That is invaluable to me. The fact that you like lose that essentially when you bring someone dedicated to your, like, I'm like, that's one of the biggest benefits to me. And I learned so much from that. And I love that too. And I feel like it helps my contractors help me better. They'll be like, oh, we just did this promo for this other brand. It worked really well. Let's try it for OneWith. Like that's so cool to me, benefiting from that. So that's huge. Obviously, like it's really lean to keep contractors and agencies. Yeah. So and I like going, something like Meta is so specific of a skill to me, like bringing on an agency that specialized in that just made a lot of sense.
Okay. I feel like product and kind of content are the key competencies for you. Are those still kind of the two things that you do, or have you brought in kind of team members or contractors to help with that?
Content is 100% me still. I do have a technical designer and head of product that helps with anything product related, but anything that's ever been published on basically any of our platforms, if I wasn't the one shooting it, I was the one posting it. But again, very few exceptions for like what I physically did not touch as an asset. It's really, and I don't say that lightly, I don't want to take credit from anyone. There's no, yeah, it's
Is that the plan for the future? Because that's kind of your key area to continue that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Talking of the future, what is next for you guys? I know we've talked about kind of international expansion and that kind of side of things. What else are you focused on going into 2025?
We have a really exciting 2025 coming up. Can't say a lot right now. Can't say actually anything right now, but we have a really exciting 2025. I'll say that. We've got a lot planned, a lot that's been in the works that will manifest in 2025. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Okay. Is this new product stuff, or is this kind of other types of expansion?
Mix of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And then I just want to say, for you personally, I feel like that, yeah, this has been a bit of a kind of journey that you've been on. What's been the most kind of rewarding part of it so far?
I mean, waking up every day and and I'm not kidding, Jordan, this is not me being corny. The best moment of my day is sitting down at my desk for the first time that day. I love what I do. And I was built to do this. Like, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. That in and of itself is so rewarding. And I guess I'll just leave it at that.
That's very cool. That's a very good answer.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think, yeah, just kind of the flip side to that is, as a founder, it's not always kind of sunshine and roses, right? And I think, yeah, you've had obviously, a journey, like I said. How do you stay kind of inspired and motivated during kind of some of those more challenging times?
I think you have to be built for it. I don't think I had a lot of ups and downs even pre-one with, obviously that's life, but yeah, I have a thick skin. I've got, I'm tough, I'm mentally tough, resilient, that you need that. But yeah, I also think and I've heard other founders say this too, as you get further and further into your journey, your tolerance for risk, what you consider to be a bad day or bad, everything, that target gets so moved, that is constantly moving goalposts. And it's very effed up at times because sometimes things happen and I'm like, this would have destroyed me 2 years ago. And it's just yeah, no, that's a normal Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? It's your tolerance for risk just moves and your tolerance for what goes on just moves. And that's beautiful and also sometimes really scary, obviously, because sometimes you're like, okay, that again, that was a lot scarier a few years ago. What's happened? So pros and cons to your point. There's a flip side of everything.
Yeah, I think there's a gym saying, right? It's like the scar tissue builds the muscle stronger. And I think that's certainly true of kind of the mental scar tissue from being a business owner or founder.
100%. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, you flex those muscles more, the muscles get bigger. It's really just what happens by virtue of going through the day-to-day of being an entrepreneur and a founder.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Hayley, thank you so much for coming on. Before we go, I've just got kind of 2 quick questions for you. So first off, if any of today's listeners want to kind of get in touch with you or check out what you're doing, where can they do that? Where's the best place to find you?
One with Swim on Instagram, obviously also our website, onewithswim.com. And in terms of getting in contact with me, I'm not the best with LinkedIn messages, but I do check them, if I'm waiting for a flight or something like that. So I am decently active on LinkedIn too. Hayley Seeger.
Okay. And do you want to give that network you're a part of a plug again? Because I feel like, I speak to a lot of founders that maybe don't have a group or people to talk to.
Yeah.
In the e-com space.
For sure. It's literally called the Founders Club. And it was founded by Chris Mead from CrossNet and Aaron Spivak of Hush Blankets. And they're wonderful.
It's 2 very big names as well.
Yeah, they're great. They're awesome.
Cool. Okay. And then final question is, Hayley, do you think there's anyone else that would be a good guest to come on the podcast in the future?
Ooh, yeah, I've got a couple good people.
Okay.
Yeah,
Should we catch up
I guess
after
I'll tell you
that?
off there, or should I say?
No, we can catch up after. It's all good. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I think that brings us to the end. And I just want to say again, like, this is a really cool story. So thank you for coming on today and sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Jordan. Yeah, I don't tell this in vain. I tell it because I really hope, the pieces of this story can help people at different times, or, that it catches the right ears at the right time, I guess is my hope.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.